Good evening. Good evening and welcome. The time is now 6 p.m. I will now call the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of September 25, 2025 to order. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham regions forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none,
Chair Miller, if I might, I'm just trying to verify if we have quorum to start the meeting. We would need, we now have 12 members of the board, so we would now, and I believe everybody sits on the governance committee, so we would need 7 for quorum. So how many do we have online? Just I see Trustee Thatcher. Is that it? 1 online and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. I'm counting 6. So we don't have quorum yet. Jillian, do we know if there's more planning to attend tonight? So, Chair Miller, the rules do allow you to stand the meeting down if quorum is expected until we reach quorum. I would stand the meeting down until we have quorum. Yes, 15 minutes. You can stand it down for 15 minutes.
okay, with advice from Council Cotter, we will be standing down the meeting for the next 15 minutes until our meeting reaches quorum. Thank you to those waiting online. Thank you to our viewers at home and our members online. We have now established quorum for our meeting, and our meeting will proceed. We will now move to a motion for the approval of the agenda. Can I please have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda distributed? Thank you, Trustee Jackula, and thank you, Trustee Brown. All those in favor? Thank you. The agenda is approved. Tonight, we have two recommended actions. The first recommended action begins, that's me, from page 1 to 4. Can I please have a motion to approve the draft minutes of the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of May 28th, 2025? Thank you, Trustee Oldfield. All in favor?
I think we missed 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, sorry. Yeah, that.
Yes, we continued from the previous down of the, when we went on our, to wait for quorum, we decided to proceed with the meeting. So we already had done the land acknowledgement. Thank you for making that point.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we can continue. Thank you so much. Okay, again, so can we follow with our, I need a motion to approve the draft minutes of the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of May 28th, 2025. Thank you, Trustee Jackula. All in favor? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Our second recommended action is our revised student trustees and student senate policy, and I'll turn over to General Counsel Patrick Cotter and Senior Policy Advisor Surya Banerjee.
Thank you, Chair Miller, and through you. So the report can be found starting at page 5 of the agenda package. Trustees will recall that the student trustees had brought forward some amendments to the student trustee policy at a prior meeting, and as a result of just some administrative hiccups, it was not, the track changes was not on the correct and current version of the policy. So we're coming back now with the amendments that were suggested at that time, and this time they are track changed on the correct policy. So you'll notice the changes at section 3.9 to 3.12, and I believe that is it. And Sharia, I don't know if you have any other comments to add other than that. No other comments, sorry.
Is there anyone that would like to move the recommended action on page 5? Trustee Morton?
I'm not on. It is recommended that the Governance and Policy Committee approve the revised student trustees and student senate policy included as Appendix A, and that the matter proceed to the Board of Trustees for consideration at its next meeting. I'm pleased to move that.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. Are there any discussions or questions from trustees? Seeing no further questions or comments, may I have a show of hands or the cards? All those in favor? Thank you. That motion is carried. We will now move to our information item for discussion, and that is item A, progress pathway on policy development. And I'll turn that over to our Senior Manager of Public Affairs, Michelle Giroux, Senior Policy Advisor, and Sharia Banerjee.
Good evening. Thanks very much. I'm very pleased to be with you this evening, and my colleague, Senior Policy Advisor Shreya Banerjee as well. As most of you know, we've been actively working to support the DDSB policy process. And I want to start by acknowledging that policy is a cornerstone of effective school board governance. Policies, as focused statements of the board's values, principles, and beliefs, guide decision-making. And in particular, board policies guide the Director of Education in setting procedures and practices to ensure the effective operation of the district. It's clear in the work that we've done to date that both the board and staff recognize that this organization is at a point where the policy process needs some rebuilding. While the district has passed some really important policies in recent years, over time, there's been a buildup and collection of policies, procedures, and regulations, with some duplication and some need for better organization and restructuring and resourcing. The board itself recognized this when it provided directions to staff to move away from regulations and to create a more robust policy and procedure process, and that work has been underway. This spring, when the district hired a new senior policy advisor, it was an important step forward in allocating dedicated resources to build policy capacity. Tonight, Sharia is going to provide you with an overview of the work that's been done to date and will lay out a path forward. While much of the work to date is administrative, I think what you'll see is the importance of having a strong administrative foundation to support an effective policy process. Tonight's presentation is an opportunity to showcase our work, but more importantly, to invite your input to inform our practice going forward. As we work through the presentation, we welcome questions. We can't promise we'll have all the answers tonight, but we're committed to working with you to ensure we have the information you need in order to make the changes to the policy process going forward. And with that, I'd like to invite Sharia to start the presentation.
Thank you, Michelle, and good evening, trustees and respected members. Since joining DDSB, I have been working closely with Michelle and our staff on strengthening our policy framework to ensure it is clear, effective, consistent, and aligned with our strategic priorities. Today, I will walk you through key developments in the work done so far and the next steps where we'll be seeking your feedback and guidance. At DDSB, we begin our meetings and policies with a land acknowledgement recognizing the lands we are on. In this spirit, our policies affirm the importance of Indigenous and human rights and commit to upholding these distinct rights. We strive to foster safe, inclusive, respectful environments grounded in equity and human rights for all. I'm going to begin with a quick overview of how policy and governance work has evolved. I'm going to highlight key achievements leading to current progress and just set the stage for where we are going. On this slide, you will see that in 2022, we started off with the board's motion on regulation and review and phasing out of the regulations. The key elements were moved into, the point is to move the key elements into policies and procedures. And as we moved forward with this work, the regulations were reduced from 70 to 37. In 2021, there was a transition from being an ad hoc to standing committee, and which took place in April and May of 2021. This expanded the mandate, governance, policy, and accountability, and it constituted annually at board organizational meetings. So Governance and Policy Committee, as a result, was established in 2021. We moved to the adoption of the Big Three policies in between 2021 to 2022. These policies are Indigenous Education Policy, human rights, anti-discrimination and anti-racism policy, safe and respectful workplace and harassment prevention policy. We then moved on to administrative review of policy and resourcing, which included the review of governance functions, structures, bylaws, policy cycles, corporate records. And finally, in 2025, we focused on strengthening policy staffing, and this involved hiring a senior policy advisor, myself, in June of 2025, a records manager in July 2025, and these roles are essential to the work that we're going to do moving forward. Here I'd like to clarify the distinction between policies and procedures because they play very different but equally important roles. Policies set the board's strategic direction, they establish the what and why, and are approved by the trustees. Procedures are operational. They explain the how, outline roles and responsibilities, and are approved by the director. So together, policies provide the framework and goals, guiding direct decisions and establishing expectations. And procedures explain the steps and execution process, translating intent into day-to-day practice. Together, they ensure our school system operates in a way that is coherent, accountable, and aligned with our values and legal responsibilities. As an example, if we are thinking about student safety, the policy would focus on the commitment, it would lay out the commitment, and the procedure would explain the bus discipline steps. Keeping our goal of clarifying the difference between policies, procedures, documentation, and training in mind, we understand that it is our responsibility to define what belongs in a policy versus procedure, to ensure documents remain clear, focused, and accessible, and avoid creating policies that are very long and difficult to understand. Currently, overlapping information across regulations, policies, and procedures has created inconsistency. This framework serves as a tool to build capacity and bring greater consistency to our policy documents. So here on the screen, you will see that what I have already covered in terms of policy and procedures, and the two other key elements to this structure is documentation, which are essentially the tools and resources that support implementation. And there are examples underneath, such as forms, reporting templates, guidelines, and so on. Training is the other essential component, where materials that promote awareness, knowledge, and skills are involved. And these resources and materials build awareness, promote understanding, and implementation. And again, this could include presentation, training materials, how-to guides, and so on. As part of building a strong foundation for policy work, we have invested in resourcing the policy functions by bringing in new staff like the policy advisor and records manager. One of the biggest concerns we've heard is the poor organization of policies, procedures, and regulations, which makes them hard to find and navigate online. To address this, we're consolidating everything into a central repository, a one-stop shop that improves location, linking, and categorization. We're working on designing an accessible and user-friendly web page, and we've updated the policy template to bring greater consistency across documents. Beyond consolidation, we are introducing a more structured taxonomy to classify policies and procedures, ensuring they are organized into clear subject areas. And I will talk more about this in detail in the next slides of this presentation. We are strengthening the policy development process and framework, ensuring an effective and consistent policy review cycle. Finally, we are exploring feedback mechanisms with the senior team so that staff have a voice in shaping the system. Taken together, these steps ensure that our foundation is not just about organization, but about accessibility, usability, and continuous improvement. As mentioned earlier, our current state includes multiple and difficult to navigate links of policies and procedures, as well as the regulations, and these are hard to search and locate. So to mitigate this, we have organized and better linked the policies procedures into a one-stop shop. So our consolidation step, which involved grouping all related documents into 10 categories or subject areas, which I will get into next. And this ensures better accessibility in the future, as policies and procedures would then become easier to access, use, and they would be AODA compliant. So I was talking about the 10 subject areas, which are these, as you see on the screen. In reviewing our policies and procedures, we thought about what are the main subject areas that truly capture the scope of our work. From there, we began grouping them into clear categories. We also consulted with policy owners along the way to make sure these groupings made sense. The subject areas you see on the slide are the result of those conversations and reflections. They give us a more structured framework to classify our policies and procedures, making them easier to access and understand. This is still a work in progress, and we welcome your thoughts and feedback. Just to ensure that everyone's aware of what the subject areas are, I understand the texts are quite small. I'm just going to read them out. Indigenous rights, anti-oppression and human rights, business and finance, communications and community engagement, sustainable facilities management, school operations, governance, legal and information management, health and safety, people and culture, human resources, positive school climates, mental health and well-being, and lastly, instruction, curriculum, and assessment. Just to give you an example, this is what the groupings would look like. So under Indigenous rights, anti-oppression, and human rights, these would be the policies and procedures. If you are interested in to take a closer look, there is a link available to do that at a later time. So it will take you to a few other slides, which would give you an expanded version of the subject areas. Moving on to classification and the numbering scheme related to the subject areas. Here is a snapshot of the numbering scheme. So for Indigenous rights, anti-oppression and human rights, the code would be IND. For business and finance, it would be FIN. Communications and community engagement, COM, so on and so forth. Another example here, if we think about the budget allocation policy, this is what it could look like in terms of coding and numbering. And followed by that, there's the budget allocation procedure. So you can see how the codes interrelate. Moving on to regulations. As we move forward with the board's directions on phasing out regulations, according to the May 2025 report, the regulations have been reduced to 37 from 70, as mentioned earlier. We are working on analyzing and addressing the balance of regulations and improve their alignment of policies and procedures. We are hoping to bring a report to you in October, which will help us to complete this work. As we look ahead with our work on regulations, this slide gives you a picture of where we currently have regulations only, where policies and regulations exist together, and where all three, policy, regulation, and procedure, are in place. This analysis helps us see the full picture and decide how to move forward quickly and efficiently, rather than waiting until every single item is fully consolidated. In terms of key policy work, once again, we are renewing the policy on policy. We are improving and enhancing a policy template, and we're establishing a strong policy renewal cycle, and also developing a procedure on policy. We've been working on refining the policy template. This gives us a good structure to bring consistent standard of practice. Once we are ready, we will have an instructional version of this for staff to use and then develop on that consistency. Here I've given a snapshot of that policy template. You're welcome to click on the link to get a better visual of the template, and we welcome feedback on this as well. Policy and governance work is the focus of this committee and for the committee to better understand what's coming forward. We think that a committee work plan for this is essential, where we will be scheduling the policy, bringing an update on regulations so that we are fulfilling your request to address that work, renewing the policy and policies, and develop the policy renewal cycle in a more effective way. We know community engagement is important to you, and we are aware that a comprehensive report is due back in December. We are exploring some engagement mechanisms and tools as part of the policy process. On your work plan, community engagement will be included for this year. Lastly, there are a lot of opportunity through professional learning to support you and work with you on policy work and in creating a culture of practice in policy and governance, and I'm looking forward to that engagement. Since I've started my work at DDSB, we've been doing the foundational work trying to understand how to improve the webpage, organize policies and procedures, continue on with audits, and so on. Once that is more in place, we'll start looking at alignment, which involves reviewing and phasing out regulations, putting in place policy and policies, and then going on to building capacity. This would lead to building resources and tools and bringing you reports, work plan, more scheduled items coming forward. Our end state, or the end vision, is to have our 5-year cycle to operate efficiently and consistently. Okay. In terms of the preliminary committee work plan, we've mentioned that there will be a work plan, and here's what we are planning to bring to you in the next meeting. You can expect to see a report on regulations, a draft policy on policies, a preliminary committee work plan in December. We know we have a report due back on engagement practices and mechanisms as well. We are working with departments on other work that will be coming forward later. As we develop the schedule, we will have a more confirmed timeline and schedule for what's to come from January to May of 2026. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll welcome feedback and questions at this point.
Thank you, Senior Manager of Public Affairs, Michelle Giroux, and our Senior Policy Advisor, Sharia Banerjee. At this time, I will ask trustees if they have any questions and comments. I recognize Trustee Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I have a few questions. The first one is, you mentioned outdated policies and regulations. Have you already consolidated all the outdated policies, or have they already been, are they a part of this list that I'm looking at? I click the link.
We definitely have not consolidated all of them. What we've done so far is tried to understand, one, how many regulations are remaining, because you've indicated that we should move away from those. And what we're looking at is where there are regulations, how many have policies and procedures, and how might we move forward. And we're not totally there yet, but in October, what we hope to bring forward is a report that says, okay, of the 37 remaining regulations, here's our recommended strategy to move forward. Some maybe can be rescinded, some maybe can be consolidated. So not necessarily a fulsome upgrade of every document, but a strategy to get to just 2 channels. And then there's quite a bit of work. That work will take time to go through all of the policies and put them on a cycle, but we will prioritize those, and that'll be part of the ongoing conversation with the committee.
Thank you. Are there any other questions and comments from trustees and those online? Okay. I will turn over to Trustee Brown.
Sorry.
Thank you. I was just going to say,
sorry,
I asked that.
hello?
I had 2 questions.
Just one
okay.
second. Sorry, Trustee Edwards?
Sorry, I didn't think you saw my hand up as far as the question is concerned. I did have a question around the subject areas. And, you know, we talk about being user-friendly. And I'm just wondering if you had actually asked some parents or so forth, as far as, because they often are the ones that are trying to find these categories. Although we call it people and culture, they probably would be more interested in hearing it as human resources. And I know it's in brackets, but I'm just wondering if you've actually talked to parents who use the policies quite frequently, what they think about the categories, because some of them are, to me, are not as intuitive from a parent perspective.
Appreciate that feedback. We haven't done any consultation on those at this point. We're fairly early in our work and wanted to get our preliminary thinking to you. There'll be an opportunity for that ahead. What we have done is we've been looking at a lot of best practices across other districts to see what language is there, and I appreciate the feedback that there may still be room to bring greater clarity to those, and we'll give some thought, take that under advisement, see what we can do there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. I will now turn to Trustee Brown.
Thank you. I think Trustee Edwards kind of said a little bit of what I wanted to say, because I was going to suggest a parent portal that I'm thinking of. There's always going to be certain policies that parents are always going to be looking for. I don't know if there's any themes or, you know, but I think that's something maybe to consider when you're going through all these policies of which ones do we think the parents would need. So I don't want to add on to, you've already got 10 categories, but I do feel that there will be some common policies that there's a parent area or even parent and student area that they could go to and say, okay, there is obviously the obvious ones will be there, the human rights, but maybe there's others, and just have a look at that.
I just, before I turn to the next question, is there anyone that has not spoken as yet that would like to make a comment or to ask a question? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn to Trustee Brown. Decline? Okay. All right, so that ends the question and comments. I just wanted to say I am excited about the work ahead. This is I love the display. I really appreciate the design plan. I really appreciate the work that has gone into this report. Thank you so much. And that concludes our discussion.
Thank you very much.
So at this time, seeing that there is no further business, can I please have a mover to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, Trustee Jackula. All in favor? Thank you. The meeting is now adjourned.